This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the best comic book podcast for regular comic book fans. I'm your host, Mike Rapin, and joining me this week, two friends who came to see me for my birthday, Brian Murray.
Happy birthday, Mike.
And Kait Lamphere.
Happy birthday.
They're here in my freaking house here in New Jersey. I can't believe it. Mostly the fact that they drove an entire day to cross the country from Michigan to New Jersey to come see me and to hang out and do touristy New York things, which is very exciting. But yeah, we're here to talk about comic books. One thing I'll say before we get started into this week's show, next week we're going to be live on Twitch. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard on Twitch, twitch.tv/IRCV podcast. We're going to be live on video. We're going to be talking about a commissioned episode. We're going to be talking about Booster Gold from the New 52 as commissioned by our good pal Keith over on our Patreon. So if you also want to commission an episode, you can join us at the $10 tier, get access to that, and we will make an episode of your choice. You pick the host, you pick the topic within reason, and we will make it happen. But yeah, we're going to be doing that next week. It's going to be super exciting. So we're recording today on a Saturday. Next, we're going to be recording on a Sunday at night. Make sure you're there. Come harass us in the chat. That's probably the best part about doing those live episodes. But I'm here now with my two legally mandated questions that I have to ask every single week, and that is, how have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with Kait.
I've been great. I'm glad to be here in your house, which is full of comics, and I love it. I read The Witch of Thistle Castle. This was put out by Titan Comics. We got an early review copy. Thank you, Titan Comics. I love it. This is by John Terracine, and the release date is Halloween, October 31st, which I love that it's on a Wednesday, so we get new spooky comics. Mm-hmm. And this book is about a master and an apprentice. In this world, witches are rare and hated by society, and magic is achieved by making deals with spirits, which can be dangerous. And I think that that's like a really cool magic system because it adds like this element of chaos that is like functional. Like you meet the spirit and you see their deal, and I'm really into that. One of the few witches in Scotland is tasked by the church to train a teenage boy who holds great power. There are just some little things in this book that I really like, which is one of them is a quote, which is, seeing a witch is rarer than seeing a man in a skirt, unless you realize there are kilts all around, because this is set in Scotland. And I just loved that. It was like, it depends on your perception of things.
So wait, is the implication that witches are everywhere and you better watch the fuck out?
That's what I'm wondering.
Okay.
But this is only volume 1.
Okay.
So, and another detail that I really enjoyed is that the first meal the witch takes her apprentice out for is Eggs Benedict, which in my opinion is the best breakfast designed by man. So
Fine. Opinions can be wrong. So.
And I really like this apprentice kid so far. He's got this rare power, which means that he has like this title amongst witches, and his title is the Blood of Righteous Anger. Except that this teenage kid is like the sweetest little sad boy. Like, he's very shy and apologetic, and he just wants people to like him. There's nothing.
And you connect with this character somehow?
Yeah. He's not angry at all, and his title is of Righteous Anger. And anyway, this reminds me a lot of the first few volumes of Ancient Magus Bride, which I really liked the first few volumes of, and then I went kind of in a direction I didn't really like, but I'm still reading it. Anyway, so these two titles have the master and apprentice set up in common, where the apprentice has like this great power that they have no clue about. And this one, The Witch of Thistle Castle, it's got a couple of things that like I don't really love about it. Like, it's got that problem that some manga has, where some of the bubbles don't have those little arrows, so you don't know who's talking. And then there's like one panel that's like very male gazy, and I'm like, why is this in there?
Well, I mean,
but it's manga.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is manga, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to volume 2 of this. I mean, this is kind of pretty much right up my alley.
So when you say they have to like make deals with spirits for power, is this like do they negotiate for the power? Okay, so it's not like a Pokemon thing where you just gotta like make them do your bidding.
Right. Like, it only happens once or twice in this first volume, but it's like the master is talking to a spirit that she actually like knows and has interacted with before, and she's like, I just need you to fix this, and my deal is going to be that I'm going to give you this thing that I know that you like, and the spirit's like, okay, great. but it does set up the potential for this apprentice to make a bad, dangerous deal with a spirit, because like, I can make you friends and you just have to give me all of your power, and this sad boy might do it.
I mean, I feel like as a sad teenager, I probably would have done that too. So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I can't blame them.
Kind of reminds me of the Dresden Files. Whenever Harry needs to get information, he just brings up a fairy and is like, I will give you 2 large pizzas if you tail this guy.
Yes. Very similar so far.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm glad you got to check that out. Like, I feel like Titan recently just started like throwing a ton of different stuff at us, more than just their Conan the Barbarian and Bloodborne comics. And they recently just started pushing really hard on their manga, because I think we all know like manga sells. So of course you want to be able to license some shit to be able to sell to people. But yeah, they've been giving us a bunch of those comps, and like, I feel like every week they're stacking up 4, 5, 6 other new series or volumes and stuff. So my guess is that they're going to be pushing a lot of this, and hopefully we'll be able to see all of it, which is exciting.
Yeah, I liked the Bloodborne comics until the guy came and beat my ass. Couldn't get past the end of the first issue. That boss is just killer.
Okay, Brian,
I'm gonna head out.
I'm just gonna skip that bad joke, and I'm gonna ask you, how have you been? How have comic books been? I thought you actually had the Bloodborne comic in the notes here. I was like, oh shit, he's gonna talk about this. No, what did you read?
No, I read Bloodline, Daughter of Blade, Volume 1. This is written by Danny Lore with art by Karen S. Darboe, colors by Ian Herring and Chris Peter, letters by VC's Corey Petit, Joe Sabino, and Travis Lanham. This is the story of Blade's daughter, Brielle. This is how I found out that Blade has a daughter. Probably an experience a lot of us are having in this moment.
Yeah.
She is living in Atlanta with her mom, and she has recently kind of come into her half vampire, or quarter vampire in her case, her Dampier powers. So she does what any, rambunctious teenager would do, goes out and immediately tries to fight vampires with them.
Right.
Lucky for her, when she gets in over her head, she happens to have the best vampire hunter in the business as her daddy. And he flies into town to give her a quick training. And yeah, we have, it's very much like supernatural / horror action, and just like little bits of high school drama. It reminds me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the best possible way.
Sure.
I was thinking this sounds right up your alley.
Yeah. Everything that you've spoken, I'm like, yeah, this has Brian's name written all over it.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna try and keep following this. It didn't like knock my socks off or anything like that, but it was definitely good enough that I'm gonna keep checking it out.
Yeah.
I really like that because her mom knows that Blade is her father. She has her own like vampire hunting background, and so when she finds out, there's no like, I have to keep this secret from my family and get into trouble because they think I'm. No, it's just like, wait, Mom, you know about vampires? You know about vampires? Okay, well, if you're gonna fight vampires, be safe. Your dad is gonna come give you the talk.
Right. Proper steak usage, all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to draw some parallel in my mind to a joke about like condom use, but I can't find it. Maybe we'll figure it out in the break.
Just don't let some boy get his fangs in you.
Yeah, there we go. Brian's got it. Thank you. Well, let me talk about a book that I read. Today is my birthday, the day that we're recording, which is very exciting. So those of you listening live, thank you for showing up to my birthday party that we're doing via microphone in a parasocial way. Yeah, I've been, another week has gone by where I have been completely absorbed by Baldur's Gate. So I have not read nearly as many comics as I was hoping to. Like Tuesday, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave work, I'm gonna sit down and have dinner, and then I'm gonna read some comics. And then like my hand just like was magically drawn to my mouse and keyboard, and suddenly I was playing Baldur's Gate until midnight, right? So I only read a handful of books this week. One of them being Uncanny Spider-Man #1. I know I'm a little bit behind in this, but this is the book by Cy Spurrier, Lee Garbett, Matt Milla, and Joe Caramagna on letters. It's a Nightcrawler book, but it's a Spider-Man book, and the reason why it's both is because not because Kurt Wagner has become a Spider-Man, but because the whole event that happened at the Hellfire Gala, where Orcus is now trying to kill all mutants because of reasons, and if you want to know more, send me an email. I'll send you paragraphs. But long story short, as per usual, Kurt Wagner is on the run from somebody, and he's decided that in order to disguise himself, he's going to dress up as Spider-Man because his good pal Peter Parker lent him a suit, and so now he is the Uncanny Spider-Man, basically patrolling Central Park for pickpockets and other burglaries and stuff, and at the same time dealing with this strangeness of the mutant spark, which has been like a through line for all of Cy Spurrier's books for the past couple of years, like throughout the Krakoan era of X-Men. It's kind of a weird book, but like it's an interesting book because Kurt Wagner is an interesting character. Like the way that Cy Spurrier writes him is with that type of like jovial circus characteristic that I think a lot of people love out of Kurt, and I think some writers got away from that for a long time where he became really serious, especially after he died to save Hope back in the day. Again, this is just begging for me to do an X-Men blind box episode where I just talk about whatever happened to the old Kurt Wagner. But anyways, this book is fun. I think it's going to be short. I think like all of these Fall of X books, it's like 5 issues. But I am really trying to see the forest for the trees with this whole mutant spark thing that that Spurrier has been trying to do, where there is this idea of like a religion that innately lives within all mutants that Kurt is trying to focus on, about like how there is more to life than just like trying to reproduce and following these really simple mandates that that Professor X laid out when they first laid out Krakoa. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm torn because I want to follow all of this stuff, but at the same time, it's not interesting enough that I can't say that I want to buy the comics every month. And instead, I'm like, could I just wait 3 months, catch up on Marvel Unlimited?
Right.
Like I feel like the guy from like 2012 who was like, the rent is too damn high, and I'm like, the single issues are too damn high. I might as well just fall back on this thing, and maybe that's Marvel's whole point. I'm not going to put the tinfoil hat on to discuss that any further, but anyways, Uncanny Spider-Man, it's a fun book, but like most of this Fall of X stuff, it's kind of just blah. And I don't really feel excited about it the same way I did of all of the Krakoan era stuff. So I can't believe you, Marvel. I blame Kieran Gillen forever for this. Not really, but I can't believe that Marvel has decided to steer this direction, and it makes me sad every day I pick up an X-Men book. So
I just have one important question.
Yeah.
What does he do with the tail?
It's just there.
It's just sticking out?
Oh, it's just sticking out.
How is he in disguise?
Okay. Brian, how do people not realize Clark Kent is Superman? I mean, like, it's the same shtick. He uses a German accent, like it's clearly a German guy, and to the point where the burglars were like, "You're not Spider-Man."
Yeah.
It's very much like the Joker recognizing Dick Grayson when he was dressed up as Batman. He's like, "That you're not the same guy. What the hell are you doing?" But he's like, "No, don't worry. I am the Spider-Man." That's at least that's how I hear it in my
Does
head.
he at least have like web shooters?
Oh no, he's just bamfing around.
And he still only has the 3 fingers?
Yeah, he is for all.
So he's putting no effort into this, is what you're saying.
No, Brian, he has a Spider-Man suit on. It's a suit. It looks like a Spider-Man suit.
I mean, anyone can be under the mask.
Yeah.
But
didn't we all watch Into the Spider-Verse? Come on, Brian.
But I mean, if you're trying to be in disguise, looking and acting and sounding like yourself is not a great way to go about it.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna just leave that there, and we could talk about it later. But let's move on to some other books that you guys have read. Let's bounce it back over to UK. What else have you been reading?
Yeah, so I picked up Volume 2 of Star Wars Leia, Princess of Alderaan. This is by Claudia Gray and Hiroichi, put out by Yun Press. And in Volume 1, go back a couple months from when I talked about that on the show, Leia joined a young ambassadors group as part of her duties, like as princess, and then she ends up going on these humanitarian missions to other planets and moons, and just trying to like help the locals, basically. And in this volume, she meets the Queen of Naboo, and they try to help miners on Naboo's moon, where their working conditions are just like awful. They can't hardly breathe in the mines, etc. Somebody keeps like stealing their stuff. And she also is just starting to figure out that her parents are part of the early stages of what we know as the rebellion. And of course, it's Leia. She wants to be involved, and her parents are like, "Whoa, this is not safe for you." And also they know who Leia is to the Empire. And Leia does not know that. So the creators do a great job of making Leia like this complete, well-rounded character in this really short number of pages because this is a very short manga, really. So in addition to her work to help the local miners, she also has these like big concerns about the Empire, and I just really liked the balance of her nervous about both like local like issues that she's involved with and she knows the people, and then also like these huge problems of like the system is rigged and everything is bad. And Leia's also developing like a crush and thinking about like which dresses her fashion droid would like to see her in, and like bringing clothes home and being like, hey, look at this dress that the Queen of Naboo lent me. And it's very cute.
Sure.
And
I might be misremembering my Star Wars, but isn't the Queen of Naboo at this point her aunt?
that did not come up if that's the case.
They might not know.
Okay.
But if Kara was here, she would know.
Yeah. Wait, like her aunt in terms of
Like Padme's sister.
Padme's sister. Right. Okay. Oh, okay.
I would love that if that were the case because they got along swimmingly.
Okay. That would be fun. That would actually be really adorable.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that that Darth Vader had an aunt out there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I feel like I need a family tree now. Like, that's fine. Well, maybe another time. Maybe
Well,
another
no,
time.
she would have been Darth Vader's sister-in-law.
Or sister-in-law. That's what I meant. Yes. Okay.
I just wanted to add real quick for this book, Star Wars Leia, Princess of Alderaan, the manga. My favorite thing about it is that in this series, Leia is meeting all of these like other young women who are going to end up being like powerful forces in the rebellion in 20 years or whatever, and we are familiar with them from the movies. So like in volume 1 she met Haldo, and then in this volume she meets the Queen of Naboo, which we are not familiar with from the movies, but still like a queen, and they love each other, so it's wonderful. Highly recommend.
Okay. I did not know that this is even a thing. Yen Press has the license to publish Star Wars comics or
know.
Star Wars manga. So.
I was looking through their like all their copyright information stuff, like the nerd that I am, going,
Yeah.
where is the tag that says licensed from Disney or something or Marvel? And there was nothing. Like, this has got to be. I really hope that these are canon stories and that Yen's not going to get like sued for it or something, because these are really good.
I mean, it'd be great if Yen was publishing like doujinshi, like just like people doing full blown fan fiction manga out there. That'd be awesome. Danny is saying, Kate, if you liked that book, you should read the House of L series by Claudia Gray. So
I think that was mentioned on the show last week, and I was like, oh hey, Claudia Gray. So yeah.
Well, Brian, what about you? What else have you been reading?
I got onto this hip new book. You might have heard about it. It's called Earthdivers.
Just in time for Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah. No, obviously I'm joking because this has been talked about frequently on the show. But it is the full like collected first volume is now out on Hoopla. So I was able to pick that up and read it.
Nice.
This is written by Stephen Graham Jones with art by David Gianfelice. Maybe. Sorry.
I think that I said it much worse than that when I first pronounced it, so good on you.
Colors by Joanna Lafuente and letters by Steve Wands. Funny enough, this is not the first like weird time cave media that I have consumed.
Right, I forgot there's a time cave.
Yeah. The time cave is central to the story.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, I know that there's time travel, but I forgot that it's a cave. That does it.
The cave you have to walk butt naked into.
Yeah.
There's a movie called Time Trap that
Okay.
I've seen. That's
Okay.
another cave that's like unmoored from time. Nothing like this at all, but it is actually kind of like a
Right.
fun, cheesy sci-fi movie.
No one's going back in time to kill historical figures or anything like that.
No, I wish. I'm always interested in these time travel books because there are a few like different schools of thought on time travel, namely like, when you time travel, do you split off a parallel universe or are you affecting a main timeline? And if you can change the present by changing the past, how does that happen? Are people aware that something has changed, or does everybody just always think that it was that way?
Right.
This book appears to be doing it like there's sort of like a bubble around the cave where you still remember the way things were before the person who went back changed things. But when they go out and retrieve a textbook, they're able to like read what his name was Tad, right?
Yeah.
Read what Tad had been doing in the past, which was carving a bloody path through the Nina the Pinta and the Santa Maria.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder, though, like, when they kill Columbus, like, it's definitely implied in the book that does not fix anything.
Right.
But it's like, if he had managed to kill Columbus, weeks earlier when they were still crossing the Atlantic, would that have made a difference?
Right.
Or would there just be a different European jackass who came along and ruined the whole place?
Right. Yeah, it's the constant villain Hydra problem, right? Where like even if you cut off one head, like another person's going to come up and they might be worse than that person was, which is an interesting idea. And like I'll say, even getting through volume 2, a lot of that is like still unclear. Like, and I think I have like maybe 1 or 2 issues left of the second half of this story. It's still pretty unclear, so I'm very much hoping that Jones can like wrap things up in like a nice bow, because I think all of the trappings are there. It's just a matter of like actually bundling it all up and making sure that it's delivered correctly. But I guess, what'd you think of this first volume, if tackling it for the first time?
Yeah, I really liked it. I'm very interested in seeing where it goes.
Okay.
Because I think we end with another character going back in time wearing Ben Franklin's bifocals.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what she's going to get up to back there. Hopefully not contracting anything Ben Franklin had.
Well, oh yeah, I'm gonna just not say anything, but it is a very, very different direction than I thought the book was gonna go, in a good way, like in an exciting way, where you're like, I think what Stephen Graham Jones is trying to do with this book is, I think he says this in Afterwards at one point, trying to basically channel a lot of the rage that he has about a thing that is so impossible for a single person to have any kind of impact on, right? It takes collectives, and it takes a lot of people working together to make actual change to move forward. And this book is like a result of him trying to say, like, God, if only we could go back and fix all of these problems that have essentially damned my people for hundreds of years. It's a really interesting thing. And so when that second volume comes out and the direction that other character goes in, it feels like it's a cathartic thing that he's working through, rather than the almost like vengeful feeling I think you get out of that first volume, where you're just like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy who basically damned my entire people. Yeah, so I'm glad you checked this out. This is a cool book, and like I said, it is perfectly timed for Indigenous Peoples Day.
I know, and I did like a spooky book for my first one, so
Yeah.
I'm like split the difference between Halloween and Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, very cool. Well, let me talk about one more book really quick. It's a book that everyone knows that I love, so I don't really have to maybe introduce it too much. But I did read Chainsaw Man chapters 143 and 145, and the only reason I wanted to bring this up, this is by Tatsuki Fujimoto. If you haven't read this, the long and short is a guy meets a little dog demon who has a chainsaw on his head, and then as he's hunting demons, he gets almost killed, and so does his little demon dog. And the dog says, "Hey, what if we merge together? I could save you. You can have all of my powers." And he's like, okay, I love you so much. Let's do it. And then he becomes one of the most vicious monsters ever to exist. And his anime has maybe one of the coolest opening songs and animations I've seen in a long time. But the story is demons exist in this world that are built based on people's fears. And this series used to be about that. Now it is about this guy Denji, who is Chainsaw Man, trying to not be Chainsaw Man, but it turns out that people loved Chainsaw Man, and they created a church of Chainsaw Man. But what that church is actually doing, you may have guessed, is through corrupt means they are maybe taking advantage of demons themselves so they can have all of this power in Chainsaw Man's name. And so the last 3 issues or chapters of this series have really opened up all of that, and it's taken like a hard, violent pivot from where it's been for the past half dozen chapters, which I'm excited for, because I feel like the way that Fujimoto does violence in his books is absolutely disgusting, and I can't believe that it gets published in Weekly Shonen Jump, let alone not in like an adult oriented book, because it is a brutal book when it goes that direction. I just really like the insanity that the last few chapters have had, and it continues to be like my number one manga out of the Shonen Jump app that I read every time I open it up. So
Yeah, I got on there and read the first, 100 chapters of Chainsaw Man.
Uh-huh.
I read the whole of the public service arc.
Yeah.
And then I stopped because it was no longer the book that I wanted to read.
I totally feel that.
The book takes a very, the book ends for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And then just picks back up after that. And I was like, well, none of the characters that I like are around anymore.
Dude, this is the exact problem I had when it came back. And I think I was maybe 4 or 5 chapters behind. And I just started reading. And I was like, why do I care about any of these people? Like, Denji's not even in the book. Like, Chainsaw Man's not even in the book to start. And so it's funny, though, because they get rid of, all of the characters that were made the first chunk of the series really, really fun. But I think that these new characters you do end up learning to like. But it's like you're kind of just Chainsaw Man 2. It's a sequel. It's a totally different story.
Yeah.
Denji does come back and become part of the story, and he's back to his old I'm a stupid, dumbass teenager, mentality, which if you like that in the first volume, you're going to love it in the second half. But
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe Chainsaw Man's just not for you. But yeah, I don't know. I've liked the character development that they've given. And like I said, this Chainsaw Man church thing is maybe the dumbest, funniest thing I've seen in a bit. So it's still enjoyable to me. I'm curious if anybody else out there is reading Chainsaw Man regularly, because I feel like there was this massive surge of popularity, and then it's just completely died down for a bunch of other different books now. So
yeah, because the anime came out and it got really popular, and then about 6 episodes into the anime, everybody decided to stop paying attention to it anymore.
Maybe that's true. Cool. Well, you know what? Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about books on top of our pile, and Kait is going to, in detail, explain how she's going to steal all the books that I have in my house from my upstairs library. So we're going to be back in just a second. Let's wrap up this here show for my ding dang birthday. And let's talk about comics that are on the top of our pile, comics that are new or old or just something you've been meaning to read and you're finally getting around to it. But before I get into Brian and Kait and my own top of my pile picks, let's talk about some of the folks that are hanging out with us here on Discord. They've got some top of their pile picks, and I'm going to go through them now. Hugh is reading Hexagon Bridge number 2. Tom is going to be reading Friday Day 2. I think that's a comic book. I don't know. Tom just posted that, so I'm assuming it's a comic book. Danny's going to be reading Justice League versus Godzilla versus King Kong. Did you make that up, Danny? Matt
He's definitely pissed because I want to read it now.
And then Matt is going to be reading The Forge number 5, a book that I definitely have to wait to get collected digitally because it's oversized and it's not going to fit anywhere on any shelf or any comic book box that I own. But it looks really cool, and Nick keeps telling me, it's big women in metal boxes. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then he just closes his phone. I don't hear from him for 24 hours because he's just reading The Forged. But
yeah, every time we bring it up, he has to go back and read it again.
Yeah, exactly. Just kidding. We love you, Nick. But Brian, how about you tell us what's on the top of your pile before we continue to rip Nick a new one for no reason other than just being our good friend?
Yeah, I've got a couple books, kind of breaking the rules, but
okay,
it's because I usually don't say much, so I decided I would pad my runtime with another book. I got DCeased, War of the Undead Gods. This is another Tom Taylor joint, art by Trevor Hairsine, Neil Edwards, Lucas Meyer, inks by Andy Lanning, Neil Edwards, and Lucas Meyer, and
Holy
colors by Rain Barreto.
Okay, did they have a problem getting this book out, or is this just is this a collection?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's the thing I was complaining to you about before we started recording. Just the problem with any of these bigger books is that there's always 19 people to credit, and I want to make sure I get to them all. But that makes me sound like I'm reading a phone book sometimes. I don't know a whole lot about this book other than that it's supposed to have an undead dark side showing up in it. So I am curious about how that's going to turn out. But mostly just because I'm just picking this up because DCeased has been the number one zombie book and definitely the number one superhero zombie book that I've ever read.
Okay.
Marvel Zombies is okay. It had its moments.
Right.
But DCeased has been every DCeased thing I've read has been a banger.
Right.
So as soon as I saw this on Hoopla, I was like, okay, cool. I know what I'm doing later.
Yeah, Brian and Kate drove all the way across the country so that we can all sit in one room together and read comic
And
books.
not talk to each other.
Yeah.
Just like the old days.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is just another tally to add to the board for me to say, Mike, maybe you should check out this DCeased series. Now that I've got DC Infinite Extended Universe, whatever the hell it's called, I can at least jump on and maybe grab that, or just get it on Hoopla. But that would mean that I have to wake up, or I have to stay up past like midnight or 1 a.m. or whatever to wait for the Hoopla borrows for my entire city to reset so that I can get a borrow in before anybody else, which is a constant problem. But we can talk about that another time. Instead, tell us about the other book that you've got in your list.
Yeah, the other book I've got is another book that I spotted on Hoopla and decided to give a go to. Sticking with kind of like the spooky theme. It wasn't on purpose, but it just kind of worked out that way. Swamp Thing Green Hell.
Dude.
Written by Jeff Lemire, art by Doug Mankey and Sean Mall, colors by David Barron, and letters by Steve Wands, who also did the letters on Earthdivers. I love this like idea in that universe of like the red and the green and the rot as these like forces of life and death that are both opposing and intricately tied to each other. Because way back in the New 52 days, I was reading Animal Man and Swamp Thing.
Yeah, dude.
So like I don't know if that's where they were like first introduced, but the red and the green came up a lot in those early issues.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's one of the few DC things that I actually know what people are talking about when they bring it up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to check that out. This is supposed to be kind of like a post-apocalyptic story where there's like this avatar of the red, the green, and the rot. And the only person who can stop it is Alec Holland, who is dead and has been dead for some time. And as we all know, when a superhero dies, that's it. You never see or hear from them again.
Yep. Yeah, no, this book is really cool. Again, I mean, Jeff Lemire was the one that wrote that Animal Man run, right? And then, so like, I feel like the thing that he wanted to tap into with that Animal Man run is just a continuation in this Swamp Thing story. Like it feels like a natural sequel, even though Charles Soule, Scott Snyder, Scott Snyder, thank you. They also tapped into things with the green, and they did the gray and the rot and all that other stuff. But I feel like Lemire really latched onto this idea and never got a proper chance to do a Swamp Thing side of that in his own style. And I think that this Green Hell book is exactly that, and it's really, really cool for that reason. So if just to reaffirm, you dug that old stuff, you're really going to dig this new book. I read all of it, I think. I don't know. I
think it's only 3 issues.
Yeah, it's like 3 issues. It was part of the Black Label stuff that they did. So they're like oversized, and Doug Mankey's art is just like on display, full force. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm excited to see what you think of that. But Kate, what about you? Actually, no, Kate, not you, me. We're going to talk about what books I'm excited for.
It's his birthday, Kate.
Yeah,
Leave him alone.
Come on, Kate. Come on.
You've got priority.
Yeah, that's... I just don't know how to adjust to how this podcast is formatted now, but I'm going to talk about a book that I'm excited for, which is Sports is Hell. This is by Ben Passmore. The synopsis for this book is probably the best way to describe it, so I'm just going to read this verbatim. After her city wins the Super Bowl for the first time, T is separated from her friend during a riot and joins a small clique fighting its way through armed groups of football fanatics to meet a star receiver that just might end the Civil War or become the city's new oppressive leader, which is insane. This is a 60-page hardcover book. It won an Eisner, if I'm not mistaken. But it's very just like absurd, humongous thing happening at an extremely fast pace, from my understanding. I've heard a lot of really positive reviews about this from folks that I trust who have read other Silver Sprocket books, and so it's from a small publisher, but it's this humongous, oversized hardcover just to like showcase Passmore's art, I think. And this sounds like a bonkers concept, and I don't know how you execute on this idea in 60 pages, but I'm very, very curious to find out. So, if you can go give this a check, because I think it's one of those weirdo books that will like alter the way that you look at comic books. That's my gut feeling.
I don't know why this is what came into my head, but you remember Jingle All the Way?
Yeah, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's that scene where he and, was it Sinbad?
Yeah, Sinbad. Yep.
We're trying to get that toy, and it's just like all-out warfare inside that toy store.
Yep.
That was the mental image that I got.
Yeah, that's probably an accurate statement. I looked at some of the preview pages for this, and it just looked bonkers. I'm excited to check it out. So that's what I'm up to. But Kate, what about you? Well, you can wrap us up, and then we can talk about how you're going to perform a heist on my house this week.
Okay, so I went to my local comic shop, Vault of Midnight, last week. I don't actually get in there that much anymore, so when I do go in, I try to pick something up, even if it's something I've never heard of before. And last week, it was a book called What the Font. This is a manga from Seven Seas. It's by Kunichi Ashiya. And this book, What the Font, is not to be confused with the informational nonfiction book about fonts that I also own. And it's also not to be confused with the website, What the Font, which is a font identification website that I use almost daily for work. This is a manga.
This is the most Kate Lamphere shit you've ever heard.
See, but I love this. Oh my god, the back cover to this book shows off the characters of this book, and every font is a different character.
It's wonderful.
Oh, I must own this. I need to have this in my life.
So the story that is in this book is that a sales rep that works for a company has to create a logo but knows nothing about fonts. So anthropomorphized versions of different fonts show up to like guide him through the world of typefaces and designs. And flipping through this book...
Sorry, this is insane. Go ahead. Keep
Literally
going.
Tears in my eyes right now.
This is so bonkers. Please keep going.
So flipping through this book, there is like information about the different fonts. Like you'll have a spread about like the history, and the entire typeface will be on it, and it's informational in that way. But then there's a whole story where this main character interacts with the font person. And as a designer, looking at this back cover, looking at this giant list of fonts, I do use like a lot of these fonts very frequently, like Gotham, Garamond, Futura, Helvetica, Rockwell. And I'm so excited to see how the creator chooses to style each of these fonts differently, because like to me, certain fonts have certain tones and like lend a certain air to your content. And so I'm legitimately very excited to see like how exactly a font person would be as a person in terms of like in comparison to the tones of the fonts. And so I just wanted to point this out. So the interior of the manga is grayscale as usual, but there was definitely a design choice made for the front cover of this book, because like using two colors as in design is like a specific like choice to make a book cheaper, but they've done it on the cover, which is really interesting from a design perspective. It's like a legitimate like graphic designer was definitely like on this book. Like this creator has got to be like a super multi-talented person to have come up with this cover. So I saw this like on the little bottom shelf of my comic shop, and I'm like, I know this phrase, what the font, and now it's a manga too, and everything is lined up perfectly for me to own this book. It looks great.
For some reason, this feels like those like old college humor sketches where like the different websites would show up to a party, which to this day is still one of the funniest things in the entire world to me.
There is a bit from Game Changer that I actually shared the link in the Discord live chat.
Okay.
Brennan Lee Mulligan as Times New Roman confronting Zach Oyama as Comic Sans.
Oh my god.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
It's very good.
Well, I'm just going to be honest here. I just bought that. It's coming here tomorrow.
Okay, great.
I really don't like buying comics from Amazon, but this just has to happen. I must own this. So, yeah. But that's I appreciate you bringing this to my attention, because this sounds like not only a manga that I'm just going to own, but I'm going to buy for every person who thinks that they can't read manga and say, no, you're a nerd who likes fonts. Like, I'm going to give this to my sister. I'm going to give this to my buddy Rob. I'm going to give this to like every designer I've ever met and be like, this is really dorky, but I think you'll like this. And then they're going to fall in love with it. So thank you. Thank you for that, Kate. I guess to wrap the show up here, Kelly just brought down a bunch of bags of presents, which it's way more than I expected, so that's a whole thing. But Kate, you made a list of books that you're going to steal from me, and you put it in the doc. You're just flatly telling me this.
So I want to set up a visual for the listeners, Mike has numerous bookshelves in the house. We walked into the house. There are built-in bookshelves in the living room covered in books, mostly RPG books, but
Yeah.
I'll steal those too. It's fine. And then you go up to his office, which you can see on camera for our videos online sometimes, but you can only see one shelf in the videos. All of the other walls are also covered in books. So we're talking 300 books in one room at least.
Easy. I mean, I've got like a whole Calyx bookshelf that is overfilled. Like there are multiple shelves that are double booked with comics.
Amazing.
Like I have all of the Viking
Vinland Saga?
I was gonna say Viking Quest. What the fuck's going on with my head today? Vinland Saga is stacked up on one shelf, but it's like the first 9 volumes are behind the front. You know, the remaining volumes and stuff. So it's easily over. Like there's that, and then there's a Billy bookcase that's full, and then behind me there's like some other brand bookcase that is half full because the bottom half is covered. So yeah, it's yeah. And then there's the overflow Billy bookcase, which is in the other room.
In the guest room.
Yeah.
You can't just keep saying Billy bookcase and not explain what that means.
It's everyone knows what a Billy bookcase is.
I don't.
It's from IKEA. It's like the standard bookcase from IKEA. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I guess you guys haven't lived on the East Coast enough where everybody fucking survives off of cheap furniture made from particle board from IKEA.
Yeah, we get cheap furniture made of particle board from the thrift store.
Oh, right. Yeah. Which is maybe from an IKEA, but yeah.
So, so the only bookshelf that I have really investigated is the one in the guest room, which is like only half full, surprisingly. So
it's overflow. So here's the thing, Kate. You go through those books, and I'll tell you my reasoning for those books to be in that room.
That means you won't notice they're missing.
Exactly.
Hey.
See, I figured that these are like the family safe books. These are like the family friendly ones for your nephew or whatever.
Oh no, Sin City's in that room.
But yeah, so part of my plan here is that this is in the guest room, and I don't expect you to investigate this bookshelf in particular. Like, you don't go in there every day, so maybe you won't notice that they're missing. And also, I've brought enough luggage between me and Brian with enough spare space that there is room for most of this bookcase. But I just wanted to pick out my favorite half dozen. So you've got the entire Mossguard collection as far as I can tell.
I think I'm missing 2 anthology hardcovers, but I have the main series, and that's all that matters.
Okay, I've only read like a quarter of the first book, so like just stealing the entire collection seems like I'm gonna like the whole thing, right? I've got to. I
mean, you will, because David Peterson is just amazing. Like everything that he does in those volumes that he drew are just unbelievably perfect fantasy stories that everyone should read. Like if you have a modicum of interest, that series is amazing. I can't speak to the anthology stuff because I haven't read all of it, but like the core books that he did, unbelievably good.
Awesome. So I'm gonna start there, and then I'm also
go for it.
Going to like grab that Human Star Volume 1 and 2, which I read Volume 1 on your recommendation. That was really good.
Well, yeah. The only reason those books are in that room is because I have the deluxe hardcover copies that are sitting on the thing behind me that are like gold. They have like gold foil on the outside of it or whatever. I don't remember what that's called, but like gilded page outside.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever the fuck that's called.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then I'm also going to steal a book that I've only seen. Okay, the rest of these I've only seen the spine of, but like the spines have a little bit of art that looks really nice.
Okay.
So we've got Scott Is Not a Band Kid, which I assume is adorable.
Oh yeah, Scout Is Not a Band Kid is a book that Kate Scotchless put me onto, and I think both her and Paloma were like, this book rules. And it is very good, but I've been trying to get all of my young adult books and kind of put them in one place, which is why they're in that room, because eventually I want to have like these are family-friendly books compared to Sin City's also here, which is a different vibe completely. But yeah, Scout Is Not a Band Kid, very cute. It's adorable from start to finish, yeah.
And then we've got This Was Our Pact.
Yep.
Okay, and then Fell Swoop.
You don't know what that is, do you?
No, this is Our Pact. I was not a big fan of.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
So you won't miss it when I steal it.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this is like a general call out for folks. Like, I have a lot of books that I'm willing to just give away. Maybe I'll just take a photo of everything and be like, yeah, go ahead and make your best offer. you know. This is Our Pact is either I read it, I didn't like it, or I started to read it and I put it down and it just never got read. So I don't know.
Okay, and then we've also got Cosplayers.
Cosplayers is an interesting book. It's if I'm not mistaken, Dash Shaw and it's a book that's like about cosplayers, but it's a weird like slice of life, super awkward book. Like the whole book reads really awkwardly, but I don't know. Maybe you might dig it. It's got people dressed up as like Adventure Time characters on the cover and stuff.
Yeah, it looks cute.
The only cosplay book that I read isn't so much awkward in the pages as it is awkward to tell people I read.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And then The Winter of the Cartoonist, which looked far more serious in comparison to the rest of these.
That was a DNF for me.
Oh
yeah,
boy.
I got about 2/3 through it, and I was like, I assume that it is a very historically important book for people who live in like Europe and Spain specifically, but it is about like 4 cartoonists who decide to make their own publisher. As like they publish strip comics, right, in a magazine, and they decide to make their own magazine, and then it fails, and supposedly that eventually gets to them writing comics to support the war efforts of the Civil War that was happening during Spain during like the World War II. It's a very wordy book where I was like 2/3 of the way through, I was like, I can't figure out what the point of this is, despite knowing that this is a historical like depiction of something. Weird book, but it's beautiful. Like the art is gorgeous. It's just a lot of the writing is weird to follow. It's hard to follow.
Very dense.
Yeah.
No, it's not even that it's dense. It's like people are just saying things for no reason in panels. And they're not even like background things. Some guy will like mention a sandwich, and then somehow the sandwich is actually relevant to the conversation 2 pages later. I was like, who the hell was even talking about a sandwich? Like, it's weird. It's just weirdly written. Maybe just didn't vibe for me. So yeah, you're free to take that one.
Okay. And then only one more is in this list. Not to say that that's where I'm going to stop shoving books into my bag, but
these are just the ones you get fair warning about.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
So you'll know what to replace.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Well, I'm not gonna. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
So this one is the Carmen line, and I actually flipped through it a little bit because I was intrigued by the title, and it was like a super thin little book right at the bottom, and I'm like, he's hiding this book. What is it about? I have to know.
It's his porn.
Yeah. So I opened it. I didn't see any dialogue, so this might be just like a visual book, and I tend to like those books. Like my pick for the Goodreads reading challenge of the year was The Arrival by Sean Tan. And there's no dialogue in it. So this Carmen line.
Oh, the Carmen line is like a manga. It's like an independent. So, okay, I went to Mocha Fest earlier this year, and there was this booth that was selling like a bunch of just indie manga that they had translated and republished. Which I was like, hell yeah, like what looks cool? I was just grabbing stuff because it sounded, I was like, I'll spend $70 on like 9 books, like, because they were super cheap. Carmen Line was one of those. It's a weird book. It's a lot of short stories that are kind of like someone trying to process a feeling, and they kind of outline that in the back. They're like, a lot of these are just things of I needed to get out and I didn't know how to express it. There's like 2 really good stories in there, and the rest I was like, this is too ephemeral. I'm maybe not in the right headspace for it. But yeah, a couple of them are pretty good in there.
Cool.
Yeah, you're welcome to take that. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that's just the ones I'm going to warn you about. Okay. So, R.I.P. your collection.
Yeah.
Just gonna steal like volume 4 of all your manga sets.
That's fine. Well, I mean, yeah, my book is definitely littered with comics pretty much everywhere. Like you can literally turn behind you and there's a stack of comic books next to the couch, which is my like forever to read pile. Like I pull one book out and then a new book goes on top of it. So, yeah, I just can't stop. Which is why I think we talked about this maybe a couple weeks ago, or we talked about it at Hangout of like, how do we like purge books? I think the answer is have your friends come over and steal them from you. Because, like that's fine. But yeah, I am definitely gonna like. I feel like I need to go through the books that I'm just like okay on, or books that I'm like comfortable with having read but not owning for forever, and just like put them up and say, hey, it's free, just pay for shipping, or just drive to my house and you can take them. And Danny is saying, yes, you need to come visit Mike. Yeah, I welcome everyone to come visit me and take comic books from me. That would be a huge help. I think Kelly would appreciate it too. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess to wrap the episode up, I guess I'm excited that you guys are here. I think after this, we are going to play board games or maybe go get beer or both. I don't really know. But either way, it's going to be fun. And I think that's that's it for everything. I don't know if there's anything else, but yeah. So next week's show is going to be live on Twitch. So if you're around, you should come hang out with us. That is October 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to join us on Twitch. Make sure to follow us at twitch.tv/IRCB podcast to hear us talk about a commissioned episode. We're going to be reading and talking about Booster Gold Volume 2, number 1 through 6 from 2007, aka 52 Pickup, the trade paperback. So, which I think is a very funny name. I thought that was a joke that Keith put in his commission. No, that's actually what the Blue Beetle volume is called, or Booster Gold is called. I'm probably going to call him Blue Beetle 150 times.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why, but I do that in my head because they're buds, right? I'm asking the wrong people.
I have no idea.
Danny, quick.
Please help us. But yeah, as always, you can follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/IRCB podcast to get access to things like the IRCB Movie Club. We just put out a vote for our foreign film edition. We're going to be talking about 3 movies that are not from the United States that are based on comic books, which I'm really excited about. And you can always follow us on TikTok and YouTube, our Instagram account, which we have run and do all sorts of fun stuff there. Infinity Shred is the best band in the universe. They do all of our music. We can't thank them enough. Zander cackles in the moonlight when he sees it. It's weird. I want to say thank you to Brian and Kait for recording with me today. Thank you to everyone hanging out with us live on Discord. Thank you to Kelly for letting us record in the middle of our living room. And until next time, comics are good, and so are you.